Hello authors, I'm Joanne Morrell, children's and young adult fiction writer and author of short non-fiction for authors. Thanks for joining me for the Hybrid Author podcast, sharing interviews from industry professionals to help you forge a career as a hybrid author, both independently and traditionally publishing your books. You can get the show notes for each episode and sign up for your free author pass over at the Hybrid Author website to discover your writing process, get tips on how to publish productively, and get comfortable promoting your books at www.hybridauthor.com.au. Let's crack on with the episode. Authors! I hope you're all keeping well in whatever part of the world you reside and listen to the podcast in. It's the last episode of 2022, episode 55, and I think that's a good odd number to finish the podcasting year on. It's a loner-sode from me today, reflecting on 2022 and what's to be in 2023. And I chat lessons learned, money earned, and what the words and focus are for me in both my personal and professional life for next year. So last week, you would have heard the advertisement for Thorn Creative, who have come on board as the first sponsor of the Hybrid Author podcast. There will be more episodes next year sponsored by them, but if you did miss that episode, Thorn Creative did my author website and specialise in author websites, and they're just fantastic. If you're in the market for an author website or just a website in general, head on over to thorncreative.com.au and to see the kind of things that they create. But for today, if you love the podcast or any of the episodes has helped you further in your author career, you can now pay it forward by buying me a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/thehybridauthor. Or you can leave me a review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on to help other writers like you discover the podcast. Let's all support each other. So the recording of this episode is brought to you from me in Manjimup. I'm on holiday with my family and I would like to have had all this done before, but didn't quite work out that way. So I'm in my car on the side of a street recording into my phone. So if you can hear cars passing by or any kind of strange background noises, that's the reason why. I'm not in my usual recording space or anything like that. And just with Christmas, formatting my books and all sorts of stuff, getting the podcast ready for January. Also, this recording, I thought, I'll just do that while I'm down there. So here I am. So please excuse any sort of technical things or craziness. So to begin the episode, in 2022, it has been a year of ups and downs in both my professional writing and personal spaces, as I'm sure that's been the case for many of you writers out there. If you're a regular listener of the podcast, my goal is to become a fully fledged hybrid author through independently publishing, at this point, my short non-fiction books for authors and traditionally publishing my children's fiction. So where I stand at this point, I have non-fiction books and children's books, and I'm still trying to achieve that goal. That has not been realised this year. But reflecting back on what has been achieved and what hasn't was quite incredible. I have done a lot. I have done a lot of stuff this year, and it's just insane. It's such a good practice to reflect, just to see how much you have done, because sometimes you feel like you're just not doing enough or you're not getting ahead or whatever, but when you actually look back and see the amount of time, effort and things that you've put in, it's quite amazing. So I'm going to share that with you now. In January, the podcast was still fortnightly. I had started the sponsorship through Buy Me a Coffee and my author adventure updates at the beginning of the podcast episodes. I was in the middle of picking up doing the formats for my non-fiction books, and what was terrible at the start of this year was we lost one of our dear friends to suicide, which was completely unexpected, out of the blue, and just absolutely heartbreaking. So January was not wonderful. In January as well, usually for a lot of people, yes, it's a new year, start the gym, it's all fresh goals and things like that, whereas for myself, because it's school holidays in January, generally I'm still on holiday holiday with my children as I am now. It's not quite 2023, but it's usually still just quite slow, quite relaxed till I get back into work. And then when school kicks in February, that's when the focus comes around, and it seems to be more the new year starts for me. So I think also in January, I entered the Australian Society of Authors mentorship program, which was, I put in I think it was my Popcorn Girl junior fiction, I can't remember, I think that's all I had at that point, into see if I could get a mentorship for free to see how the work could be made better. So in February, I ventured out into my local business station, which I met some really nice women in business by attending some events. And through these events, I was really inspired chatting to other people in business, and especially women, because as women, we obviously deal with a lot more other things. Yeah, so it was just nice to sort of connect with other people in business, not so much authorship, but just business in general. And I ended up walking away with a big basket I'd won in a raffle, and 7 hours free business consultancy, which I signed up for. And I began meeting with a business consultant, Kate, who, she sort of advised me on and sat down with me, and we talked about what my business goals were for the year and what I was going to work through. Now, the main ones for me at the start of the year was having my 2 short non-fiction books for authors, Freelance Writing Quick Tips for Fast Success and Author Fears and How to Overcome Them, uploaded into stores in ebook, audio and print formats to sell. So that was the one that we were going to focus on. So in the month of February, the lessons learned was definitely, attend other events outside of authorship and writing, because it just gives you a bigger perspective on a lot more other aspects which make up an author business, not just authorship. So go to business events, other interesting events that interest you, that are, out there. Expand your creative mind and network by, you'll expand these things by doing so. I felt talking through my goals with someone and what I wanted to achieve and creating and working to accountability worked so well for me. It's definitely how I work for sure. So in March, I learned I was not the winner of the Australian Society of Authors mentorship, and that was a shame, but it also led me on to look at other things that the ASA offered, which I was quite involved with them this year. The podcast, Hybrid Author Podcast, hit number 20 in a compiled list of best writing podcasts and continued to gain traction. I was still fortnightly at this time, and I continued the work on the formats of my books, and I re-recorded the audiobooks that I already had. So I guess narration wasn't the best. I was kind of new to it, doing it, and I re-recorded it. In April, I submitted my picture book that I had written, The Shouting Family, to the Squibby Larrikin graphic novel and picture book competition. And around April, I think I felt in a bit of a bind between my hybrid author goals, writing fiction or non-fiction at that point, because what comes around generally at the start of the year, I find I'm in the non-fiction head zone, and then as I'm coming to the end of the first half of the year, it tends to go into the children's fiction, because that's when competitions are either opening up or awards or opportunities. And also there's the Squibby West writers retreat that I've been going on for the last 5 years, and that's usually June, July, so I have to start getting stuff ready for that usually. So I think lessons learned in April: when something doesn't go to plan, stop and take stock of where you're at and what you're trying to achieve at that time. Does the same goals still relate to you from the beginning to where you are now? And reflect. Even then, even a couple months in, even monthly, you should be reflecting, I guess. In May, I plan to record the audio for Author Fears and How to Overcome Them. So obviously, I was going to re-record, due to something unforeseen. I can't remember what. There was probably noise or workmen on the street or something. That didn't happen. So if many of you listen to the podcast, I have a day job from, the start of the week, and then I have 2 days effectively during the week where the kids are at school, and I have that time to work on my author business, do my writing. Also, the podcast is part of that, which takes up a whole day. And so I have limited time to be able to record these things. And I remember that getting pushed back at the start of the year. So that all caused my goal of having the formats up and ready back. It kept pushing that back. So I also seem to get a bit distracted around this time because there was a short story competition that came out called Australia's Biggest Yarn, and the prize money they were offering was pretty big, and started to think, oh, well, you know, I should get involved in that. And I didn't start anything new. I'm not really genuinely a short story writer, although when I was in uni I did write a lot of short stories, so I kind of started going through that, looking at past works, trying to dig something out for that. So I feel like that kind of took me off track. This was in May, sorry. This is the month of May. Things weren't really going to plan. Obviously couldn't do the recording for the audio. Got distracted by the short story competition. I also caught COVID for 2 weeks. That really took me out. So I just think lessons learned in the month of May is try not to be distracted by the new shiny thing that's out there. You know, short story competitions, as much as the big cash prize would be great and I should enter it, I just short stories, and it's not really my thing, so why was I heading over there? You know, try not to get distracted. Look after your health is number one. Allow for, you know, if these things happen, accept them, move on. Accept them for what they are. So in June I didn't, you know, even though I was tinkering around with the short story, it needed more work, it needed this. I didn't make the deadline for the Australia's Biggest Yarn. I just ran out of time. I kind of changed the way I was scheduling things and doing things. So I think at the start of the year, it was just focus on one goal, get that done, and that was the formatting. Then move on to the next thing. It was just focus on one thing, move on to the next thing. And I think I found that just the way I work in my day job, I'm multiple across lots of different projects, and I think at this point I felt like I needed to do a little bit of each thing of what I enjoyed, and it's okay for things to change and for you to change with them. Nothing is set in stone here. There was things in my day job as well in this month, picking up work through that, and just being kind to myself, realising that sometimes life happens and that's more important, things with family or day job or whatever at this stage of my life, because I'm not earning an author income from this business. Those things take precedent. Also in the month of June, I had another meeting with business consultant Kate about the formatting. Although I think it was around this time it could have been that one actually. She missed a meeting, and I was sort of waiting for her there, and it was from that missed meeting with her that I kind of went off track with the formatting, because I was getting them ready, accountable to her, and it was really driving me forward. And then we had this missed meeting, and it just sort of threw me well off track. But also, again, with the time of year coming around, the children's fiction had started to appear again. So in June also, my husband was off work with recovering from carpal tunnel surgery, or he might have had it at this point. So I couldn't go to the Squibby retreat, which I normally go on. I'd been on that for 5 years. I did go to the WA Premier Book Awards with Cindy Lane, and that was a really good highlight for me. And then it just said still formatting, reviewing print books against audiobook, plans to finish over the weekend. So still going there. But I think a lot of the formatting for me was picking it up, putting it down, getting lost again, being unorganized with it. I guess it was a bit of a process, which I will not go through again. And I think coming into July, I had a few more goals of putting myself out there and pitching more. So in July, I attended the the Literature Centre's Storyteller Festival, which was held in Fremantle in Perth, Western Australia. And I stood up and did a pitch in front of Fremantle Press and an audience and authors I know who... so it was very daunting. I had dry mouth and, you know, everything like that. But the whole purpose was, it was to gain feedback and to get a bit more confident as well. So I took the feedback that I got from that pitch and I worked on it more, worked on the pitch more, worked on my story more. And in July, I had a go of taking the podcast full time, which I have to say I've never looked back. I've managed to keep up momentum, which is great. At this stage, I was gearing up to pitch to the Australian Society of Authors, the literary speed dating event. I was working hard on my junior fiction series, The Caravan Kid, and getting that ready. And in this month also, it seemed to be very busy. Lots was happening because I wrote about, in my author adventure, spoke about feeling exhausted, and to say that if there is weeks that you're struggling with energy and time to create, just let it go, productive days are on the horizon, to say today I can't, today needs to be about this for me, and recognize you need to rest. Recognize and release. You will be okay. It will all be okay. So yeah, I was obviously feeling a little bit burnt out there. Lessons learned in July was chopping and changing between fiction and non-fiction. It was mid-year and I started to feel spent with it all. I seemed to reassess goals on what I wanted to do mid-year and put myself out there. So I think a lot of people do reassess goals mid-year, and it is something, I've said just earlier about revisiting goals monthly, revisiting this. And it's obviously to check you're on track with what you want to achieve. And in August, I learned that the picture book that I'd submitted into the Squibby Australia and New Zealand Larrikin Publishing House picture book and graphic novel competition had been longlisted. So that was a really wonderful surprise. I was really excited about that. I also received the literary speed dating results from the ASA speed pitch. I had not been successful with the agent, but the publisher, Claire Hume from University of Queensland Press, had asked to see the manuscript. So I started to polish that up a bit more. So lots of writing happened in August, and I sent that out. I also attended the Children's Book Council of Australia, Western Australia's Book Week opening dinner. Because that writing project had gone, I started to think about what I wanted to work on next, and I started to have, because October was appearing and the deadline for a Screencraft, which is an organisation that has a lot of screenwriting competitions available. I've always looked at their competitions for years and I've always wanted to get a screenplay together to submit, and because their horror one was approaching, I started, and I've had an idea for a horror film thing for years as well. I thought, well, this could be the time for this one to emerge. So in August I was starting to think about that. I also, in September, I had some downtime. The day job was full on, kids activities. They have a dance concert in September. It was just a lot. And I had been introduced to Thorn Creative, the sponsors of the Hybrid Author podcast now, and yeah, I ended up going with them to start my website, and I had to start getting the stuff through to them. I also, in September, received the first money, pay it forward into buymeacoffee.com, and I started to think about doing a webinar as well in October, but it was with school holidays. I was just overloading myself, I think. In October, I was still busy sending the website stuff through to Thorn Creative, and I started to contemplate about 2023 and what I wanted to achieve and what I didn't want to drag into next year. Yeah, with and also the horror script, I was doing work on that, and I just started too late with that, needed more time. I missed the deadline for the script, I sort of flunked out. I didn't manage to do the webinar. There was just too much on my plate. And also because September was obviously like the dance concert with my children, October came and I was trying to do all that. Didn't happen. And then when it comes into November and December, that's the really busy season for me. Birthdays, Christmas, school holidays. It's insane. So that was on the horizon. I just wanted to start organising, beginning to get everything set up for me going into the new year, which was to really mainly achieve the goal at the start of the year, which was the formatting goal. Just make sure everything was up to date on every other site. But it can be hard, obviously, when you're one person and things still keep getting busier, and it's just crazy. So I'd written in October, what I'm craving is wrapping everything up which needs to be done and setting up systems and positioning myself for a smoother working process next year and just being ahead of the game, not behind it. So I think that a more reflection was sort of happening around this time. In November, I attended the Squibby West 20th anniversary in Fremantle, and I was announced as the new social media coordinator and newsletter editor for Squibby West. Now, this is an organisation I've been a part of for at least 5 or 6 years, and this volunteer role came around, and I know how good an opportunity it is, and it's also a chance for me to give back to this great organisation. So, again, it's just piling more stuff on my plate though, but it's been really good so far doing it. I decided not to take on any more writing projects in November. I had to start trying to organise myself for next year, which was really just getting everything up to date. The website went live, my author website went live in November. So if you haven't actually checked it out yet, if you head on over to hybridauthor.com.au, and I'm just I feel so professional having this, and it's just a great place to have everything about what I've been doing and what you can buy from me and what value I offer you all in the one place. So it's great. The Australian Society of Authors speed dating pitch, I was supposed to hear back from the publisher at the end of November. I started to sort of email her a couple of times prior to that. Didn't hear much. And then on the third response, I did hear that I was unsuccessful. I was rejected. Wasn't for their list right now. So I felt quite down about that. And then, started the submission process again for my children's fiction, which is trying to submitting to traditional publishers to get this work traditionally published. And I also, in November, I appeared on the Writers Off the Page podcast with Sinead Maripodi and a bunch of other podcasters in Australia, and it was as a guest was a great fun, and it was really, really great, and I hope to do more of that next year. So in December, the month we're in now, it was me winding up trying to get the formats all done for those books. So effectively, I started the year with the formats and I ended the year with the formats, and it took that long. So a roundup of reflections. Going through that whole thing there, I can tell I didn't take enough rest time for myself. That will be something in 2023 I will be scheduling and sticking to. I did put myself out there with pitching. I did definitely put myself out there, I think. I submitted and entered things, and some worked and some didn't. I got sidetracked by big shiny cash prizes and other writing projects that just didn't really fit in with my flow, I suppose. But also on the whole, I feel not a whole lot of writing happened. There was one picture book and one junior fiction book. That's not heaps. That was a bit of an eye-opener. I lost 3 friends through the year, 3 male friends, all shy of their 40th birthdays, and all through different things: cancer, suicide, and motorbike accident. Yeah, just generally, obviously, we caught COVID like everybody else. My husband had carpal tunnel wrist surgery, so he was off. There was just a lot of things like that, and because of that, our caravan trip holidays got cancelled, and there was a lot of sort of down in the personal life, which was a shame. So my lessons learned: more yearly, monthly and weekly realistic scheduling and time management for me. These are definitely key to stop me floundering and get distracted. And I'm actually listening to a really great book at the moment. I think it's called Life Admin Hacks, and I'm gonna have these people on the podcast, I hope, because it's a fabulous book. Just getting more organized, I guess. I figured out a rough way in which I work to tackle a project up front, which helps. I need to have the characters fleshed out, their world built, the problems they face, and inevitably what they are going to solve before even writing a word. And I'm going to be adopting some new software to help me with that, and I've got a podcast episode coming up in January with the guys who've created this software. I'm looking forward to that helping me organize my writing workflow. It took me almost a whole year to accomplish a goal, given it was a big goal of formatting my books. I feel like everyone's probably so sick of hearing about this goal, but it took so long because I do everything myself, bar the cover design and the editing. I format, I upload everywhere onto the platforms, and with the audiobooks, I narrate them, and effectively I've had 6 products I was trying to sort out. Issues arose with the print versions, so many issues with the print versions, from sizing to just the images not being right, having to go through re-uploading them as a completely different product. I'm doing a podcast episode on this probably in the new year, so I'll go more into detail there. But there was things that I ticked where it was read from right to right to left, and oh my gosh, I fell off track when I didn't have accountability with the business consultant, and also the times of years and just time in life getting in the way. But I can now sort of say that I did achieve this goal. You can now buy Freelance Writing Quick Tips for Fast Success from most online retailers in ebook format. It is also available in audiobook format. It is also available in print book format. I haven't set it up through my website yet, but I will let you know when that happens in the new year. Author fears and how to overcome them. ebook up everywhere, audiobook up everywhere, and the print book I've still to upload because I just have one image. So, but as far as I'm concerned, it's done. I achieved my formatting goals and I'm not dragging them into the new year with me. You are not going to hear me talking about having to achieve this goal anymore. I did it! Yay for me! So money earned in 2022 from my books was zero because I haven't been selling any books. So why would I be making any money? I do make money from writing. I'm a technical script writer by day, so my writing does earn me a living. But that's not the goals I'm trying to reach with my author business. That's not counted. What's to be in 2023? Goals for next year. Not to put in a zero tax return for my author business. The last 2 years I've put in zero. Things have cost me money because I'm not selling anything. So I want to sell 10,000 books by the end of 2023. Sounds like a lot, but effectively I begin the year with 6 products and I want to end the year with another 12 products. Now these are formats. So another 4 books in 3 formats each. Now, this is an independently published project. I am solely going to be sharing with my newsletter audience only. It's an experiment. It's something I've never done before. It's a genre I've never written in before, but I read widely and I've got many ideas and it's just something that really excites me. And that's what I want to focus on. I won't be talking about it on the podcast. It will be solely with my newsletter. So if you're keen to find out more about this top secret project, you can head on over to sign up for your free author pass at hybridauthor.com.au and sign up free author pass. And this is where you're going to be getting this. If you can follow my author adventure with this top secret publishing project there. So in 2023, I want to write more. I want to submit more. With the children's fiction, I still want to have the goal of being traditionally published. I'm not going to be really writing much children's fiction next year. I have been writing children's fiction since 2011. Children's and young adult fiction since 2011. I have written like 5 manuscripts and a couple of picture books, and I just want to focus on the stuff that I've got and put that forward for submission rather than creating more here. Because of this other top secret project, that's where most of my writing's going to lie. And 1 non-fiction book also. With the podcast is been amazing in 2022. It continues to grow and thrive, and I just thank you all so much for supporting the podcast, sharing it with your friends, reviewing it, just generally keeping it going, because although I get so much out of it, inspirational, it's so much. It's effectively something that I'm giving back to you, the writing community. Thank you so much. The podcast will be joining YouTube next year. I plan to have by the end of next year all sponsorship covering the costs it costs me to host the podcast, run the podcast in all the other places and create the podcast. Sponsorship doesn't cover the time though that I spend in sourcing people and interviewing people and all the rest. So buymeacoffee.com sponsorship will still be going. So words for my author business next year are organization. This year was focus and I felt I achieved that, but organization is the key for me next year. And you've probably heard about me talk about a lot of that this year, getting organized more towards the end of the year. Organization, I think, is going to be a game changer for me. Personal life, the words are love myself and those around me harder. Just really, really squeezing people in my life. So there you have it, folks. A reflection on 2022. Lessons learned. It's been high, it's been low, it's been time to go. So I hope following my author adventure gives people some insight into hybrid authorship, trying to write in different genres. I have an episode with Joanne Morrell coming up in the new year. That is actually next time on the Hybrid Author podcast. Joanne Morrell, she's writing going to be talking to us about writing across different genres because she's been in the industry for many years and it's such a great interview. I love chatting to Joanne, and it couldn't come at a better time when I'm actually stepping into a different genre myself. So yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you so much to all the guests on the podcast. Bought everyone's book this year and that's what everyone got for Christmas, or I bought it for myself, giving back to the community. Thank you to the listeners. I wouldn't have a conversation. I wouldn't, just wouldn't have what I have without anybody actually listening to what I'm putting out there. It would be quite sad if it was just me doing this and no one else was actually gaining anything in return. So thank you so much. I honestly appreciate it. And I've got some great guests in 2023. We're all going to be learning a lot as we go. And yeah, I'd just love to hear about your writing goals for the future and all the rest. So have an amazing happy new year when it comes, and 2023, that's it from me. Happy New Year!
That's the end for now, authors. I hope you're further forward in your author adventure after listening, and I hope you'll listen next time. Remember to head on over to the Hybrid Author website at www.hybridauthor.com.au to get your free author pass. It's bye for now.